there, and thank you so much for joining us this evening right here on Transforming Families. I hope you are doing well, just as I am. I'm very glad and excited to have you on board this evening. My name is Faith Kaulu, and on today's episode we are touching on divorce and remarriage. Now, this is because the number of divorce cases has been rising steadily over the recent years. Towards the end of August, a Kenyan, I'd say, Twitter account posted to insinuate that there are more than 2,000 divorce cases filed only in 2020, and the year is not yet over. I mean, this is such a huge number. If you have been following the statistics on divorce cases in Kenya alone, what does this mean for us as a country? What does this mean for the family and the society as well? And that is why today we are looking on divorce and remarriage, because these people, when they get divorced, the other option is either stay single or remarry, and that is why we are touching on divorce and remarriage. And I'm very glad to be joined by Reverend Edward Karanja. Thank you so much for being here. Now, Reverend Edward Karanja is a minister with the PCEA, the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, as well as a marriage and family therapist. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Faith. It's always a pleasure to be in the Transforming Families program, because like we say it here, a stable family for a stable society. Most welcome.
Thank you, and that is all we champion for right here on Transforming Families. And at the very far end of us today is Professor Catherine Gashuda, who is the director of the Kenya Institute of Business and Counseling Studies, an author as well as a counseling psychologist. Thank you so much for being here, Prof.
Thank you, Faith. Building families is what we want to do and continue to do.
Yes. I'm very excited to have you on board as always, because you guys have so much wisdom, of course, so much experience that helps me and our viewers as well, and the viewers of CAC TV and those who follow us on social media as well. So if you're not able, maybe if your friend is not able to access CAC TV, because we understand in some areas it brings issues, worry not, because we are live on Facebook and YouTube. All you have to do is go on our Facebook page and YouTube page and send them the link. They'll be able to join us as we continue with the discussion. Of course, be in touch with us throughout this session. Talk to us on our comment section and use the hashtag Transforming Families. Now, even as we're talking about divorce and remarriage, I'd like us to start with this. During the whole divorce process, there's a lot of havoc that happens in terms of who's going with the car, who's going with the house, who's going with this property and that property and all that. And to help avoid this, they came up with a prenup agreement, which I have only had successful stories of it so far. Of course, there's like a bit of mvurutano here and there, which is less compared to before when it wasn't there at all. But the whole agreement is so controversial, because a lot of couple, if one partner brings it up, the other one refuses, because they're saying, so you want to predict that will not last forever. Why do we really need to sign this agreement? If we are in this forever, for better, for worse, then why do we need the agreement? And so I'd like us to start by looking at the prenup agreement as a whole. Does it mean that this is a prediction of what is coming in the future, that we might separate, and it's better for us to have this so that we have set a standard that if this happens, this is how it will be? I'd like to hear from both of you on this.
Right. I think what people look up to is decisions that are objective and reducing the acrimony that happens when decisions are not well informed. And therefore, that legal package, the agreement, helps a lot when it comes to decisions being made. Is it preempting on divorce? No, I don't think it does. Because for the people who are doing that before marriage, they just want certainties. They just want to make sure that things are settled, or the settlement is good, even if things don't turn out the way they expect them to turn out. But at the same time, the prenuptials can actually precipitate to a lot of conflicts and a lot of bad blood between the couple if it is not taken in good faith. So again, it needs to be looked at in a better way so that it doesn't precipitate to more difficulties, instead of resolving issues into the future end when the couple is already in the marriage relationship.
The prenuptial agreements. It's a very interesting scenario because when you get into a marriage, you don't look into it going out. Because for me, I would be looking into it like when I'm joining people that we're in this forever. That's the ideal situation. Not always that has happened, because the Bible tells me in Malachi that God hates divorce.
Yeah.
And so those agreements on whether we are going to divorce in the event that this marriage does not work, I guess it's not something I discuss. I would want to say that. Because it means you're getting into this without being so sure whether it is what you want. And that's why I would want to prepare the couple carefully before they get into it, so that you know once you get into it, then you're not coming in here to joke. You are coming in here to stay. And that's what I'm saying. The choices on who to marry are very important choices.
Yeah.
It's a very important choice, because you either you get married to the right person, then, and there's no right person. You know, there's somebody, I'm talking of somebody that you can be able to cope with here. That then it means your life is good. If not, then your life is just a mess, and it's going to be a very big mess.
Yeah.
In the event that happens, then we can always handle that. So it's something that is important for the couples to discuss, though not easy to discuss, like, I am marrying you, and if this doesn't work, this is what we're going to do. It's not very easy, but I would advise it is something that is important for people to discuss.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, indeed, previously in the previous episodes, when we were talking about toxicity in the family and domestic violence, we have covered and say it gets to a point where you need to separate from your partner, because if it is putting your life at risk, as much as God hates divorce, and you're looking at the church and how you serve, or what will they say, it gets to a point where you have to separate. And if things cannot be mended, then divorce is the only way out, sadly enough. And we've touched on that before, but I'd like us to look at the kids at this particular point. Yes. How do you prepare the children for a divorce that is going to happen in the family? You have tried resolving the matters, couples, and you see this is not working, and you're in the process of ensuring that the divorce is legalized and it happens. How do you prepare the kids for the whole process?
Right. In the first place, it's important for the couple to realize that the children are not the ones that are divorcing. It is them. And that the children will get affected if they are not prepared and prepared adequately. And just like you have said, Faith, there are times that a couple will say, this one, even if we continue talking about it, eventually this marriage is not going to hold together. Yeah. We will eventually have to go through a legal process. And before you even consider having that legal process, it's important to think, and so how do we prepare the children so that when we are going through this process, they don't hear it from other people, they hear it from ourselves. And how can we be mature enough, both of us, to know that we are going to go through a legal process, but also know that children don't have to be caught up in this, and they don't have to be destroyed by this. We need to prepare them adequately. Many a times when a couple have filed a divorce case, even the lawyers these days, they advise, have you gotten a counselor or a psychologist for the children? Because they also appreciate that it is a very turbulent period of time for the children, and children will get affected in all manner of ways, whether it's their performance academically that is going to be affected, or they are going to withdraw because they don't know how to handle this big thing that is happening to their parents, or they are going to feel depressed because they really wanted the parents to stay together, but they can see it is not going to happen because both the parents, they would better separate and go their different ways rather than being together. Because sometimes even the children are the ones that tell the parents, Mom, we cannot understand the reason as to why you are in this relationship. But that does not mean that the children are prepared even when they say that. Because psychological preparation takes a process where you help the children to be able to know that you're going to be doing that, you're going to be separating, and that they are going to be taken care of by both parents. But again, if one of the parents is not going to take up the role of taking care of the children, the parent who is more responsible of the children can say, I will never leave you, I will always walk the journey with you, and I'm going to make sure that I will do all things that I need to do within my control and within my ability to make sure that you are provided. So the children need to know about provision, they need to know about what is going to happen to the two parents, whether the two parents are going to be parenting them, the custodian parent, and even the parent who is not staying with the children. What is going to be happening? Are the children going to be picked from the custodian parent so that dad or maybe mom can go with the children for a weekend or a number of days, and then they are going to be returned? The children need to know that. So the children need to know the facts about how the settlement is going to happen, and who they are going to be staying with, and where they are going to be staying, and whether they are assured of continuity in their own education and other things that touch on them. But much more, they also need to be helped to process emotionally and psychologically what it means for them, because it's quite a loss. You're losing familiarity as a child, you're losing hopes and expectations, you're losing even your identity, because you used to be a child of two parents who are staying together. Now you are a child of two parents who are not staying together, or maybe even two parents who are not going to be talking to each other into the future. So children need to process all that so that they can be strong for themselves, and they can be strong for their parents, and they can be able to handle their life's issues in a much more healthier manner.
Well, yes, Rev, you wanted to say something.
Yes, I just wanted to add that divorce is not a wedding. When you're doing the wedding, you prepare for the wedding, you sit down, you are enjoying the talk and the chat together. It's such a sweet moment. Divorce is not an investment you're doing together. When you're doing investment, there is some agreement. Divorce is messy, it's noisy. And when you and it's good to know that divorce is noisy and very messy, and everybody is trying to pull their way. They are trying to take an advantage of the other, because already you're feeling this marriage is toxic, and everybody justifies themselves, because human beings are inherently selfish. You get to a couple that are divorcing, and both of them justifies why they need to leave the other person. The husband will believe the wife is worse, the wife will believe the husband is worse. So all of them have their own ground. And one of the things that happens in a divorce is that people have very hard stance. That's why I'm saying it's very messy. The children get affected badly, and the divorcing party might easily forget the interests of the children, as the prophets say. And that's it's very important to factor in the issue of the children. But they easily become unreasonable, because all you're thinking is how to get out of this person's life and begin your own life. You even say, who will be the custodian of the children? And some people are like, I don't care. The children will know what to do with themselves. And that's why when the divorce thing is happening, it's important to have the third party, in my opinion. Is it the lawyer? Any lawyer that is taking a couple through divorce, they should be able to get to know what is to factor in the interests of the children. And even probably, ask them, because unless we are prompted, we don't sometimes reason. When you are angry, Faith or Prof, in your home, you can throw everything aside. You can break a glass. And you need someone to tell you, hey, excuse me, you need to drink water tomorrow, and you need a glass to drink water with before you break that glass. So I would say that the people who are around are divorcing people, a couple or a person. We need to help them to think through and factor in the interest of the children.
Yeah.
Because they can easily get forgotten. Yes.
Well, thank you for that. Indeed, they can easily get forgotten.
Yes.
And that will not happen. But let's look at divorce now. And is it supposed to be an individual decision, or should the society be a determinant?
Should a society be a determinant? They have nothing to do with this marriage. But if they have something to do with the marriage, it is to support the marriage and to make sure that this marriage is going to be strong. But you also know that external forces that are coming from the society are major. Yeah. But the reason as to why I say they have nothing to do with this couple is they need to know this is their marriage, and whatever is happening within their marriage, they are the ones who are supposed to make the most important decisions, staying together or staying apart, or divorcing eventually. They are the ones that are the determinants of that. And that is why they need to own their marriage. People need to own their marriage. They need to give it an identity. They need to brand it, because it is something that belongs to them. But to the extent that we cannot be able to work on the marriage anymore, then this couple are the ones that are going to make the decisions. Yes, they can be assisted. They can be assisted by their minister or their pastor. They can also be assisted by a lawyer so that they can look at it much more objectively. They can also look at it and they are being helped by their parents. So all those people can come in. But the sole people who are going to be making decisions is the couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that. Let's look at co-parenting. Initially, you had mentioned that an agreement should be made on who is going to be with the kids during the weekends or holidays, and when they're not in school and all that. Is it healthy to share the kids between both parents? Yeah. I'll say you spend 3 days with mom and 4 days with dad. And even as we're making this agreement, should it be just a mutual agreement, or should it be legalized in terms of seeking a lawyer to ensure that you come up with ways on how you're going to co-parent together as a couple? Let's start with you, Rev.
One, divorce is an individual decision. But it's good to look into the society as well, where you are living in.
Okay.
Like you're saying, divorce can be very messy. The moment you leave that marriage, either you're the man or the woman, there is a way the society will look at you differently.
Yeah.
You're never the same again. So that's something that is very good to factor. As the prof says, the decision is yours, but it's good to know that how you're going to live after that, the society is looking at you in a big way. Now, co-parenting. Do you need a lawyer or mutual agreement? In an ideal situation, it's mutual agreement. You can mutually agree. The children, it's a weekend, they feel like their daddy, come to daddy. It's a weekend, or maybe if they live with the mother, let them go to the mother. That's an ideal situation. But remember, you have divorced because you have issues.
Yeah.
So that mutual agreement of calling and saying, hi, the children want to come and see you, can you come pick them, or can I drop them? Or can I walk them to your house, or otherwise?
Yeah.
That may not happen. And that's why you may need something legally written down to officially say this is how the life of the children will be.
Okay.
If it is matters of inheritance, who inherits what in which home. Now you have divorced. As you divorce, you factor in the interests of the children. What do they have? When it comes to co-parenting, who is in a better position to stay with the children? Who is in a stable, state of mind, a state of economy, state of everything? Who is stable to stay with the children? Is it the mother? Then the mother stays with the children. How do they go visit the father over the weekend? Whether you are comfortable with that as a mother or a father, then that's something again to be determined by the two of you, then put down legally, so that you do not have other issues along the way.
Yeah.
But if you can mutually agree without a court or a lawyer, hallelujah. But it's not that easy.
Yeah,
because you never divorced because you are the best of friends. Yeah.
Prof, would you say it's healthy for the kids to be able to access both parents, or are there situations where it will be healthy if a kid is restricted?
Right. It's important, Faith, for recognition to be made that both the parents are very critical for the healthy growth of this child.
Yeah.
And therefore, if there is an arrangement, and just like Lefred is saying, these people, they may have difficulties making decisions regarding sober decisions regarding how things need to be handled moving forward, especially when it touches on the children. Nevertheless, the courts will help. And sometimes we have seen situations where the courts have given the child to even a father because they're looking at mom and they're realizing mom is not having emotional stability to be the one who is going to bring up the children. And even if they are under 18 and they may need a female much more, in this particular situation, the children are going to be given to dad because dad is the one who is mentally healthy to be able to bring up these children. In such a situation, should we deny the children to see mom or to see the other parent? No, they should not be denied. We have seen situations where children now have been denied to see one of the parents, and later on they develop a lot of difficulties. And they say decisions were made for them, but they didn't make decisions, or they were coerced, and they were told that the other parent was not a good parent, and so because of that, they were not taken to that parent. And at this time, if it is like after 7 years, they are longing to see the other parent they were prevented from seeing because they feel that my rights were taken away from me and I was not allowed to have access of the other parent. That is why children need to be consulted even when they are going through the court processes, the parents are going through the court processes. But again, there is a lot of manipulation on the children that happens from both the parents or one of the parents. And sometimes you're not able, even as a lawyer or even as a counseling psychologist, you're not able to tell what is happening here. You have to do a lot of assessment for you to be able to determine that this is what is happening and this is what is going to be important and good for the good of the children. Because at the end of the day, what needs to come out is what is going to be for the good of the children. So I would say that both the parents should play a role, however charged they are. If they're not violent, if they're not likely to kill, then they should be given access to the children.
Oh, thank you so much for that. We are taking a very short break right here on Transforming Families, but we'll be back in a few, so don't go too far.
CapTV invites you to live Sunday services on the 11th of October from 8 a.m. The services will be as follows. The children's service will be led by Reverend Peter Karaoke, the director of the PCA Children Ministry. English service will be hosted by PCEA Chogoria Hospital, led by Reverend Roy Kamau, the hospital chaplain. Kiswahili service will be hosted by PCA Kikuyu Hospital, led by
Welcome back, and thank you so much for keeping it right here. Keep talking to us on our social media pages. Facebook and YouTube is at CapTV Kenya. Now, this second half of today's episode, I'd like us to focus majorly on the remarriage. We've talked about divorce on the first half. And I'd like to begin with this question. How soon should one remarry? Of course, we look at it in both ways, after a divorce and after the death of a spouse.
Okay, this is very tricky for me as a minister, especially the issue of divorce and remarriage and the issue of the death of a spouse. I've been involved in both cases, whereby someone has divorced and they want to remarry, somebody has lost their spouse and they want to remarry. And I remember one person who lost their spouse and they wanted to get remarried and said, yes, so when did your spouse die? The spouse had died less than a year ago. And then I asked him, don't you think it's soon? And the person told me something that was very interesting. Said, when I married my wife, I say till death. So even if I married the following weekend,
Yeah.
the Bible.
Interesting. Yeah.
Even if I married the following weekend. But we went through with him through the process, because I had presided over the funeral of the other spouse, and then I had worked with the family, the healing process and all that, and I was convinced even the children are healed. Now, when they come to me saying they are ready to remarry, I could not tell them you are not healed.
Yeah.
So at that moment now, I also referred them. I referred them to another counselor.
Okay.
And, they convinced me again that they were ready for marriage. So I wouldn't want to say that there is an exact period, but in my own opinion, I would think probably a year is too soon to remarry, even 2. I don't know what the prof would say, but I would think probably about 3 years would be a good time, so that you process the new status you are in, so that you do not do a rebound.
Yeah.
Maybe probably all of a sudden you find your house is empty, or you are lonely and you want to feel that loneliness without really looking for a partner. So I would think probably about 3 years would be a good time to do the remarrying. Anything less than that, a year 2 may be a little bit shorter.
Too soon.
Too soon. That's my take.
Yeah.
Yes.
Prof, what's your view on this?
Like Refred has said, there is work that ones need to do, because this is a person who had defined you, and this is a person you had walked the journey with and had lived experiences with, and therefore it takes time and space for you to be able to work out, so that you don't get married and then you start comparing the two persons. So I would say, without giving a time period, that one needs to work through issues. But like Levered has said, 1 year is too short. Indeed, 2 years, you kind of see that this person has been able to work through a lot of issues. And again, you have gone through a lot of other experiences that are teaching you that you need to work out on that. You need to know how children are going to be settled. So you look at all those things during that period of time, so that you don't get married and hurt the children, or you don't get married and then you realize that you actually had it because you could not deal with the loneliness.
Yeah.
So that time and space to help you to be able to heal and to respect the person who has died. If you got married after 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever period of time, it would seem like you're not respecting the dead person. So in respect of the dead person, there is need for space. In respect of yourself and giving yourself time and space to be able to work through issues, you need to have some longer period of time, like 2 years to the minimum. Because during that period of time, you will have worked through a lot of issues. You will even help the children to be able to grieve and to get to a point of letting go. Because you need to do it corporately as a family. Because sometimes we are very selfish. You can see that this individual is just doing it for themselves, but it's not looking at the needs of the children to be able to also help them to overcome the grief and the challenges surrounding the loss of the other parent, so that now you can introduce another person in the matrix.
And just to add a little bit, there is the issue of the society. The something Prof has mentioned. In order to respect the dead person, you almost wonder, does the dead person know what I'm doing here? Now this is when you realize that the society and the culture is very strong. Because the culture will always be like, he are married so fast, even the other person has not properly died. Aja katika shingo, aja kufa kabisa. So there is the way the society is looking at it, and there is also the culture. The culture will always look at it like after a year, kind of, because it will always be like, one season, a crop season. Once the season is over for the food, and the food has been harvested and is out of the stores, it looks like already a season has gone. So that person's season has gone. And so now you're bringing in the other person into your life. So as we are saying, a year is too short. The society is very important in that aspect. You may like put a don't care attitude. I don't care what the people will say, but you're living within the society. Yeah, this is the society you are in. You're living in it.
Yeah.
And like we said, and Prof has said that, you know, you need to give yourself time and you need to heal yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
But even there's something that you have mentioned, even as you are healing, because of course societal pressure, hey, you have remarried too soon. I think one should be careful not to be a victim of guilt. Yeah.
Yes.
Because even after 5 years, you'd still feel guilt if you want to remarry and be like, what will the society think? And it's almost 7 years.
And some even would say, if you marry too soon, some would say you already were friends with the person you have married. You wait for a year or two, people will pressurize all over and they'll be saying, oh, he doesn't want to remarry because he is sampling all over. Or she's sampling all over, she's having easy time with men around here as you go for a date or two. So it's also good to be, to be aware that no matter the decision you make, it will be positive or negative depending on who is commenting on it.
Yeah, yes. Sure. Now, as an officiating minister who officiates a lot of weddings, I'd ask you, have you ever officiated weddings where a partner is remarrying? This is from divorce, from being divorced. And if so, does this mean that the church is now beginning to accept divorce and remarriage?
I have officiated the wedding of a person who has divorced and they are remarrying. Because once the court has declared, one, the marriage that has broken down irretrievably, two, the people have come to my office with an absolute nisi from the court. That shows the marriage has been dissolved by the court. It means there's no more marriage. And since there's no more marriage there, then it means it is time for the people to move on. Whether the church has accepted that or not depends on which part you're standing on again of the Constitution. Because on one part, you'll hear in our liturgy, you will say that your marriage cannot be dissolved unless there is a ruling from the court. So once I have a ruling from the court, then I'm allowed to do the divorce. And then you'll also find a place whereby, like, if you divorce your woman or your wife, then she should not remarry, be married by someone else, depending on that context that is, was written at that particular time. Because it's also good to look into the scripture, and most theologians would agree with me on the issue of the contextualization of the scripture. From what context is that particular, guideline being given? Is it direct to the Christian, or is it a guideline to a particular community? Is it to the Jewish community or to the non-Jewish community? Who are the people being directed to in that particular verse? That's simply what we talk about, the contextualization of the scriptures. So the church, once one has divorced completely, there's absolute nisi. They have been taken through counseling sessions. They have gone through the church process. Then I will remarry such people. Otherwise, if you don't, it means you have already stigmatized them. It means you already decided they are outcast. Yet Jesus Christ forgives us every sin. Yes.
Oh, all right. That's quite interesting, Greta, and thank you so much for putting it that way.
Yes.
Prof, let's look at some of the factors that one should consider before remarrying. Of course, we have touched on the time frame, healing, and the kids. What else is there to really consider?
Those are the pertinent ones that we need to look into. Like whether the children have healed, so that they too can be taken through the counseling process for them to completely heal and be able to make decisions that are going to support their growth and development, even as dad is going to be getting married. But the other thing that ones need to take care of is, now that you're not having a rebound, that you're not comparing this person that you're getting married to with the other person, that you're going to see them as two separate individuals. But again, whether this person is going to take care of your household has children who are in their adolescent stage or children who are in their childhood stage. Is this person whom you're bringing on board going to be agreeable that they are going to take care of these young children? So that need to be assessed and assessed very well, even in counseling before you agree that you're going to get married to each other. Is this person willing to take on board these children and take care of them as if they are his or her own children? Because children need a person who is committed to them, to take them through the journey of rearing them and parenting them so that they can be able to grow in a healthier manner or in a healthy way, where they are going to be entities later on in their own lives who are able to take care of themselves, take care of other people, and commit to other things that concern life. But there is something else that has become increasingly important to me as a therapist when I assess the needs of people who are getting married. And this is concerning the person who died. The person who died, and I always ask the person who is coming now to be a replacement, how are you going to honor the person who died? How will you honor that person? Because it is important when you honor that person, then what happens is that you have a better relationship with the person who has died. And that better relationship is going to help you not to be having issues, emotional issues regarding the person who died, because you also have been able to look at it and see how you would want to be relating with that person. And sometimes they say, I will respect them, because if I died also, I would want someone to respect me. And the only way that I can respect the person who has died is to bring up her children or his children in ways that respect that person. So that's critical, because if you have issues with the person who has died and you're coming to get married, then you bring those issues in the marriage relationship, and those issues are going to spill on the children. So checking on that is very vital. The other important thing is, have the children accepted this new person that you're getting married to? And this time, the children are the ones who are going to give the acceptance. When you are getting married the first time, the parents are the ones that give you the acceptance and a nod. You can continue on. This time now, when you're getting married and you have children, the children are the ones in the position to give a nod. And even when I am the cake matron, when in a situation that someone is marrying a second time, I always say, let the children come first, because they are the ones who have given permission. You will follow the children. Because if the children are not contented, they are the ones that disrupt that marriage completely. So we need to see that the children nodding is very vital to the health of the marriage and the continuity of this family. Because when children feel they are settled and they are okay with the new person who is brought on board, they will receive this person on board. But I have also experienced children who say, we are not even going to call her mommy. Or we are not going to call her daddy. We have now to see that this is a beginning of many problems to happen into the future if that issue is not handled.
And the interesting thing, Faith, it's good to have you on board. I like what Prof said. You know, when you're bringing in the new spouse, either a wife or a husband, you need the nod of the children. You need the children to be their nod, but you need them really to be in the picture, and you walk the process with them. There's also another party, professor, that needed to mention, which I have really encountered in both situations of a divorced person remarrying and even the widowed person remarrying. It is the relatives to the former spouse Because you find yourself, you've been married for about 20 years
Yeah.
or 25 years. So you have formed a certain relationship with your ex family in a big way. The children knows their aunties there, knows their uncles there, and and the other way. So you're marrying this new person who is replacing their sister, replacing their brother.
Yeah.
And those relatives have a way of even trying to to become toxic to the children and ensuring that the children are taking the opposite direction. So dealing with the relatives of your ex, it has not been easy. Sometimes you will agree on things, but you even agree even matters of inheritance, what's going to be the place, because one of the things that I've seen coming out a lot in the remarrying couples, one of it is the property. The new lady coming into your marriage, maybe coming with a child or two, are the children going to inherit? And if they inherit, are they coming to disinherit us? Or do we first of all share what we have so that as they come, whatever else we are going to gather, they can get that?
Yeah.
Or you're a man, you're marrying a lady, and because you are the already who is already married here in this home, and now your husband has died, and now you are marrying another man. What happens with the property of their son? Now you're going to get married. So are you going to go with this property? Then culturally, how it comes. The wife is not a wife of a person only culturally. You are a wife of the community. So now your husband has died. You are still our wife. The brothers to the husband are claiming that. Now you want to get married. So are you going, and already we have paid the dowry to your home. Are you are you now going to get married with all the property of our son? Yet you are one of us. Two, if you get married, who is going to give you out in marriage? Is it the family where you got married, or the family of origin where you had been born?
Yeah.
So there is a whole dynamic. That's why we were saying 1 year after you have lost your spouse, remarrying
It's too soon.
It's too soon, because there are many dynamics. I have found the relatives being such a challenge in remarrying spouses.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you. And maybe, Prof, if you'd like touch on this, I'd like us to touch on this briefly. Is it easier for the kids if the spouse, the couple who had separated, come back together in remarriage? Yeah. Although, of course, the chances are very low, but it still happens. Other than when they both go and marry new people, is it easier for the kids?
When just repeat that.
When let's say a couple divorces and separate, then later on they realize, by the way, we still like each other, so they decide to come back together. So they remarry, but the same people as they were. Is it easier for the kids this way, other than them remarrying other people?
Right, very interesting, because it happens, Lefred.
I have had a scenario like that. That's why I'm smiling. I had a scenario like that where people divorced, and it went through all the court process and everything else.
Yeah.
And both of them had a boyfriend out and a girlfriend out. Then years down the line, the people want to remarry again.
Yeah.
The same people want to walk down the aisle again. So yes, the Prof answered the question.
The children would be more settled when their parents are together, because you see, this is familiar. And again, when you're coming back again, you have really looked at what happened and what made you to eventually divorce, and you're much more mature at that. And therefore, the children are going to enjoy the harmony of their own parents, biological parents together. So it is what the children would really want, and maybe what they would fear too, because they would fear, are you coming together and then you're going to divorce after some time? So they may be asking the parents, are you serious that this time round, when you settle with each other, you're going to treat each other with kindness, and you're going to make this marriage to live as long as you are alive, both of you. So they would have that deep set fear, but that is the best position for any child.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
That's an interesting view and opinion right there. Of course, we know the chances are very low, and the statistics of this happening are quite rare, but it does happen.
It does. I mean, I'm a witness that it does happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's talk about the biblical perspective of divorce and remarriage. I mean, I was recently watching a clip where it was stating that remarriage is adultery. And this has led to, I mean, this view and opinion has led to a lot of people being excommunicated and isolated from the church. I believe this is something that should change.
Yes. Unfortunately, Faith and Prof and my viewers, unfortunately, sometimes the religious organizations or religious institutions are more condemning than God himself, than Christ himself.
Well, that's such a revelation, and it's so true.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'll find a denomination will have a lot of do's and don'ts. And they will even castigate you over things, condemn you, consider you to be a sinner, even already wanting to, to excommunicate you. While you find our Christ being so gracious. Think about the lady who was caught in the act sinning.
Yeah.
And Jesus looks at the people and says, whoever has never sinned, be the first one to stone this girl. And there are many people who will even want to excommunicate someone because they have divorced. And because they are remarrying. And they will even call it say that's adultery. And some of the people talking about it may have themselves gotten into adultery. Others may not have the ability to do it. So they are condemning others because, because of it. I would say that it's always important for the church to walk from the point of grace.
Okay.
Look at Jesus on the cross. Here is a thief, condemning him. Here is another thief. And Jesus says, today you'll be in paradise. People nailing Jesus on the cross. Jesus saying, forgive them, Father. They know not what they are doing. So the church, and when I say church here, I mean religious institutions. Because the church is the body of Christ.
Sure.
And the body of Christ should have grace just like Christ himself.
Yeah.
A religious institution, it could be a certain denomination. We condemn where we should be extending the grace.
The grace.
Yes.
Wow, thank you so much. That is such a strong, I'd say, wrap up for tonight's episode. Let's extend grace.
Yes.
Just as Christ does to all of us. And thank you so much for joining us.
And if your marriage is working,
all right.
Say it, sorry.
Okay.
If your marriage is working, so because you are the best in terms of working on them, it's purely God's grace.
It is.
Yes, and those people whose their marriages are not working, don't condemn them. You do not know what they are going through.
Yeah.
Extend grace.
Extend grace. Thank you for that addition as well. And thank you to you, dear viewer, for joining us this evening on Transforming Families. My name is Faith Kaulu. I mean, let's keep the conversation going on our social media pages. YouTube and Facebook is at CAC TV Kenya. Till next time, God bless you.